Okay, folks, here we go. Let's let's do it again. All right. Finishing up our leader here for the early Russian army. I felt like having a soda today. And we'll get started. Now, one of the first things we've got to do is before we swing into this is we've got a decal that this particular guy is going to have on his shield. And we need to do the white backing. So we're going to go ahead and base that in white. So we can go ahead and do that. Sunday afternoon, that's right. Let's get it done. This is the last guy. I want to be done with these guys. I painted this morning. Did some yard work. And then ran some errands and I'm back. Did you miss me? Okay. Yeah, just from this morning, you can see what happens here with the wet palette. This is some red, and you see that it's separated, it absorbed the moisture and it separated the actual pigment from, you've got like the acrylic there and the white stuff separated. All right, let's go over to this side. Okay. And this one too. This is definitely behaving weird. It's going to take a little bit of time to dry. We don't have to wait a tremendous amount of time, but it is going to be a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get that over with. This guy, I think, has facial hair underneath there. Looks like it. Looks like he's got a beard or something. I still have water here? I do. Good. Got all the tools there to put the decals on already here. Okay, that should suffice there. All right, so we've got his shield painted in white where the decal's going to go on. And let's go ahead and do his scale mail, etc. type stuff. Now, he's got a particular kind of scale mail on here that I'm not certain if that's going to be leather or not, so I'm going to consult my book and see if I see some examples of it. And well, here's some. Scale cross with iron elements attached to a soft leather base. There you go. So it's metallic, and we will change it with some Nuln oil there and mix that up a little bit. So let's get our metal here. I guess we'll make the metal in the corner over on this side. I tend to like to put the metallic colors in the corner. I don't know why, I just always have, and we'll just keep doing that just for good measure. And let's grab a brush we don't love so much so that we can treat it a little poorly with the dry brushing. Okay. This is the last Russian. This is the last Russian, the commander. No more Russians after this guy. And looks like he's got some chainmail around his head. There he is, back from Mars. Welcome, welcome. The last Russian fellow. As soon as we're done with this guy, we're going to, oh, he's got like chainmail gloves, cool. We've got to spray these folks, all these guys. And while we're doing that, we need to start messing with the next army, which I am really looking forward to doing in detail. Okay. That should do that. All right. So this guy's going to end up getting Nuln oil over himself. You just finished painting some Quachiks. Oh man, that's the warband, isn't it? I can't remember if that's the warband or the war priests. Could be both. I'll believe that it's solid warband. Quachiks. Yeah. Are those the guys that have like black face on them? You know what I mean? They've got like ink or whatever. Because a lot of them have like some really painted faces. Aha. Okay, that's what I thought. I remember. Quachik. Cool. Yeah, you could do some fun stuff with some Aztec shields and stuff like that. Really colorful stuff. And I know that if I ever get around to doing my conquistador, I mean, I got all the Spanish to do them. I'm going to do them in. I'm going to use tin soldier figures because they're actually they're about 18 millimeter, maybe almost 20 millimeter size. So the natives I will use will probably be the ones from Gladiator because I need Tlaxcalans to go with them. They're most of the army, and they'll run smaller, so you'll see a size difference there. So that'll kind of work to my advantage. I already have those tin soldier Spanish, and I really like how they look. And but they run a little on the large side. They're Zyston sized, more or less. But I think the Spanish elements in that army is only a knight general and a solid blade, a crossbow in stand, and an artillery piece. Everybody else is Slox calling allies. Well, they're allies, but they're built into the list. So Ian Heath book. Mine are minifigs, but I had to use Essex for Quatchix. I know that Ian Heath book. I have it. I have both of them. Speaking of Ian Heath books, I'm already getting sidetracked. That's okay. I don't mind. Speaking of the Ian Heath book, I have two. I honestly forget I have these things, and I shouldn't as much as they cost. The one you're talking about is this one. I forget what the hell this is called. Man, this thing is nice. This is like $50 or something like that. Armies of the 16th century. Aztec and Inca empires, other native peoples of the Americas, and the conquistadors. 1450 to 1602. That's a foundry book. Oh, okay. This is 1999. I thought it was newer than that. But yeah, this thing is absolutely beautiful. I love this book. I just haven't done the conquistadors yet. Oh yeah, this is. I mean, it's even in this type of parchment type color. This is a beautiful book. And Qualchicks. Yeah, it even smells like England. I actually like that smell, strangely enough. Yeah, Clark's Collins. Excellent. The second book of these that I have, this one was, yeah, they're like $50. Or they used to be. Who knows what they are now? They're probably out of print. It's this one. This one's awesome. It's also a foundry book. And I got it, and the freaking spine was all scuffed up like this. That's like sacrilege for me. But this one is called Armies of the 16th Century. England, Scotland, Ireland, the United Provinces, and the Spanish Netherlands. And this has all of the Renaissance stuff that I love. I honestly forget I have this. Got little drawings there of the pike and shot formations and all the flags here, Low Countries, Dutch Rebellion, all these fancy jokers. So, yeah, I forget I have this. Yeah, I've got troops to do Spanish. Let's see, where's the. Let's see. England, yep, I have Tudor English. I don't have Scots, I don't have Irish, but I have the United Provinces, I have the Dutch Rebellion, as they're called in DBR. Spanish Netherlands, yep. I also have French, Catholic, and Huguenot. And missing one other thing. Anyways, this is a period. I love this period. Battles of the period. What else is? What battles are in here? Ancient battles of the period. I think there's better places that have more details than this. Blackheath. Never heard of Blackheath. Huh. I never heard of this, but I read about it today. I finished the War of the Roses book that runs through Henry VIII there, and yeah, Nocto, it just didn't give you a lot of detail on all this kind of stuff. So, um, yeah, I forget I have these things. So, you don't have that one. You have the African one though. WRG books. Yeah, I've got all those as well. Yeah, cool. Yeah, these are kind of strange because they're Foundry. They're from the Foundry. So, I mean, these things were really expensive. Anyhow, I got it with a freaking spine like that. Sons of bitches. Anyhow, um, one day, one day maybe I'll get around to doing those things. But yeah, I like that. I like the late 1500s period. Yeah, I finished the book on the. I did yard work today and finished the book on the War of the Roses. So I don't know where I'm gonna go next on my books. Think about which one I'm gonna read next, but thinking of doing Swiss. The early one with those fast blades, or the one that's pike, pike, pike with a side of pike. Those fast blades, man. I had to fight that battle one time in this convention. Wow, they whooped my ass real good. That is a crazy army. The pike one. Okay, cool. Pike, pike, pike with a side of pike and more pike. Yeah, that's what they were known for. I've got Swiss. I don't have enough to do a Swiss army. I've got enough to do the contingent and in the French armies and stuff like that. But all right, let's put some normal on this guy. The Swiss, yeah, they were freaking badasses, weren't they? Yeah, there was so much of that War of the Roses stuff I had no idea about. It was just, I need to find another subject like that I don't really know a whole lot about because it was fascinating learning about things that I didn't know. Burgundian ordnance. Oh yeah, my people. Not my people, but those guys fight tough for me. Man, my early Burgundians and my Burgundian ordnance. I believe like 12-3 or something like that. They're an ass kicking army for me. I had to earn every one of those wins because you've got to play keep away to the max with them. But yeah, I like those guys. They fight hard for me. All right, we got to figure out what is what on here. We got a cape that we got to deal with. We got a face on here. All right, let's take a look at some things. First of all, let's go ahead and go to the Merleton site. I know there's examples of somebody that painted this guy. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to paint him that same way, but it always kind of adds inspiration here. All right, we need to go to Crusades, Russians of Alexander Nevsky. Okay, and here's the command group. Come on. Oh, they show his armor like goldish. Okay, well, we may do that later in this. Oh, and there's red trappings on the horse. Well, go figure. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Okay, so he's showing like his face stuff like in gold. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Studio WGS. How are things on the other side of the world? I don't know. How does tomorrow look? It's already tomorrow where you're at. Nah, everything's good here. Doing well. Doing well. Finishing up We can probably put the decal on this guy now. I've flapped my gums enough. Let's go ahead and do that. And we have a decal that was picked out for this guy specifically. It's this decal here with like the double lions or something like that. That's what we're going to use for this guy. Let's go ahead and get that and start getting in the mood of finishing up this guy. This is not the exact knife I want to use. This is a worn out one. Yeah, ready to move on to the next army. I'm tired of looking at these guys. And one of the armies that I'm looking at doing is over in your part of the world. There's Studio. I've got the Tamil are on my short list. Specifically the Chola Empire. Got some references I found with somebody had, I think it was for a video game. They gave examples of some of their troops, so. That's a pretty kick-ass army with elephants and fast blade, but I'd have to buy some troops, so. Usually when I have to buy some troops, I'm like, well, maybe I'll do something else. I don't really want to spend a bunch of money on that, especially with the shipping times and all that kind of stuff, so. Tomorrow looks promising. The Tamil army. Elephants, they have 3. They have 3. I believe they have 6. I think they've got 6 blades or something like that. But I came across a ton of elephants. I already have. The general and 2 more. I'll tell you what. Let me read the list. It's here somewhere, isn't it? Tamil. Yeah, I found a flag for them too, and I'll get to them eventually. I like painting elephants. I don't know that I love them because they, require a lot of pips to count on them, but they are on my short list. But since you came in, they reminded me they're over in your part of the world. I don't know if the Chola actually took. You're in Sumatra, right? I don't can't remember if they had control of Sumatra or not. They certainly had stuff in Indonesia, but I like the Asian armies. They're cool. Nobody has. People forget about them. People like doing a bunch of European stuff, and I like doing stuff that other people don't do. Tamil. They're book 242. Okay. So specifically 301 to 1370. You have an elephant general, 2 more elephants, a cavalry. Then you have 3 fast blades, 2 fast bows. Then they can have a fast warband, a solid warband, or a solid horde. 2 more units that can be either Saloy or a fast bow. And they're tropical aggression 3, 980 through 1279, otherwise 0. So, and yeah. But one of the main reasons I had a bunch of elephants that I came across, and they're not the elephants from because Outpost War Game Services actually makes figures for that army. But if you go to their site, you'll see that the elephants that they use are like armored elephants, and I'm not convinced that those have the correct look for it. So I've got some other troops that I would probably complement with them, but I've got quite a few troops I could use already. I certainly have all the elephants, and they have a cool flag. The Chola Empire had a flag that involved a tiger on it, which is always fun, and and they're kind of a cool entity there. And I just figured, hey, that might be kind of cool to do. And it just reminded me because I know you live over in that part of the world. But I don't remember that I don't remember if the Chola ended up taking over all of Sumatra. But I know that they were definitely in Indonesia. They had their. It's funny because their army list is It's tropical, but a lot of their lands were by the shore. They were coastal in that area. So yeah, definitely on my short list. Not going to do them next. We're going to mess with, and the main reason I don't want to do them next is once I decided to do the army I am going to do, which is the Papal Italian. We don't have, none of us have a litter in any of our armies, and it's like, okay, well, we need to do that. We need to do a litter, and I want to have fun with the Pope and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a little bit more funnier. Let's put it that way, doing that sort of thing. But I do have a bunch of elephants just kind of waiting in the wings there. Malaysia. Yeah, am I going crazy? All right, hold on a second here. I'm better at geography than I am history, but the problem is I don't practice that anymore. Let me go over here to my maps here. Yeah, I got them mixed up. Yeah, Malaysia's connected to the land, and Sumatra's kind of floating out there. Sumatra's the one's got it's got bad volcanoes over there. There's all kinds of bad volcanoes over in that part of the world. Um, yeah, they're right next to each other. I think the Chola were in the Malaysia part too, certainly down that peninsula. Anyways, they're cool. They're interesting guys. Interesting guys. They do have a melee army. They do have an army that is Malaysia, and there's a company called Grumpy Miniatures. I believe they're carried by Eureka out of Australia, and they make a specific melee list with chieftains and all that kind of stuff. They're really neat looking figures. Um, so that is. But I saw the elephants and I saw the flag, and I'm like, yeah, man, a tiger flag. That's pretty freaking cool. Because obviously you can make whatever you want, but I cannot try DBMM. It's too many troops, and like if you ran a game and we're gonna play it, sure, I have no problem gaming it. I bet I would like it, but the problem is that I have all the DBMM army books. I was gifted them to myself for Christmas, and but I played so many games of DBA before I got it right because of the writing style of Full Barker, and I just don't have it in me to play that many games of DBMM before I get one correct. I just don't have it in my soul. It's very disheartening when you try to do your best shot of playing something correctly and you still don't can't get it. And you know, especially when you're like, I think of myself as above. I'm not a genius, but I'm above average intelligence, and it's like if I can't figure it out, it's just like it's just really frustrating and unsatisfying to have that. So I don't see getting into it simply because of that writing style. I've told myself I will not learn how to play another Phil Barker type game because of his organization of his rules. I just don't have it in me anymore. So I'm sure I would enjoy it. I would enjoy like finding out if it's raining and not. I mean, I dig all those details, you know. So that was my biggest gripe with DBA 2.2, that it was dumbed down so much from DBM because it was almost kind of like, well, we're going to have 8 bow behave the same as 4 bow. And, when you get to be a big boy and play DBM, then you'll get to use them differently. I'm like, I don't want to play a game that takes a lot longer to play that is even more complicated, So I'm glad when they made some of those differentiations in DBA 3.0 because now I was able to, you know, the have some of those differentiations between the troop types. But I don't see myself ever playing DBMM. Nobody here in the States that I know plays it. I know it's more popular outside there, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody play DBMMs. But with that said, I have all the Army books because it's got some really interesting stuff in there. Or there'll be like, you'll get a decision and I may build like an army for a specific period. So I will pick units based on what the period is because that might not be described in the DBA book. It'll just say, you can have warband or bow, but when you look in the DBMM book, it'll say, oh yeah, well if you have bow, it's really only after 1400, and I may be building an army that was, before that period, so I wouldn't use the bow. Those kind of details that, I dig, but yeah, I just don't have it in me to play that many games wrong. I mean, and unlearn other stuff, and it just, you know, because you could say, well, I don't want to play with extra troops, but they have a DBM. What is it, DBMM 100? It's not a whole lot of troops. But yeah, you have featured the Grumpy Melees on my video showcase. Well, that tells you how long ago I have watched. I am way behind on watching your videos. I apologize. I think the last one I watched was the one with the elephant road apples that I got a big chuckle out of. And so I'm way behind on watching videos for you. I apologize. You're I do like them with your little spinning thing here. Let's see. Have I let this thing set long enough? Looks like it. Here we go. Let's see what we have here. Let's see if this looks good, or we'll have to use another. Oh, you haven't done historicals in a while. Okay. Or I'm going to have to use another decal. Let's see. No whammies. Shit, it's the best looking one. Look at this. Oh yeah, now there's a little bit of white there showing that we're going to go in there and gently put some black around that so when we put the center boss. But look at that, there he is. It's the prince himself. The prince formerly known as, yeah. Excellent. Yeah, hold on a second. I bet Chola Empire was all up in your business where you were at. Chola Empire. Yep, you got it. Chola Empire had all of Malaysia. Yeah, the way through the bottom third of India, half of Borneo, and all of Sumatra. Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, they have a cool flag. They got a cool flag. They're on my short list. I'll get around to them eventually. They got a cool yellow flag with a split tail with a tiger on it. That's awesome. I mean, you can make up a flag for wherever you want, but if there's already a nation that has a really neat looking flag, like, yeah, go do that. They're neat folks. But I look through the army list, find somebody interesting. I want to read about the history of them. Just not just like, well, I like this army list. I think that's what I'll do, and then not learn anything about the. I've had lots of people say, we're very pro Asian armies on at least Mitch and I. We've actually everybody I've played with that are people that my close acquaintances. They're very pro Asian army, and they most people say they're not interested in them because they don't know anything about them. Well, that's the wrong attitude because there's your opportunity to learn about them. Now, if they don't make figures or something for a nation, well, it's a little different. But yeah, they make figures for all that kind of stuff. So yeah, cool. What kind of let's see what kind of oh, he has a red cape. I don't know. That's a whole lot of red on this guy. Well, you know, I'm going to try it. If it looks wrong, we'll just repaint it. F it. I want to get this guy done. I'll know what the right decision is when we get to it. This is flat red. That's what we use this one for. But yeah, a lot of people were like, yeah, don't. Du- du- du. Ba-ba-ba-bum-bum-bum. Fully understand. Anyway, we enjoyed DBA content. Reigns supreme. Monday night tourneys are great to watch and painting along to. Excellent. Got another one coming tomorrow. We got some War of the Roses theme things. I think it's going to be too involved. I may not be able to do. I'll have to do it live. Um, this is joy. Okay. John Peter, just can't keep up with all your posts. Not a criticism. Left your last post to take part in this one. Well, you know, you might as well watch it live because you can always watch the pre-recorded stuff. So, yeah, good stuff. I got so many armies that seem to be German of some sort or the other. The land of beer. People in the UK are going to disagree with me. And cuckoo clocks, right? The land of beer. Well, let's do his cape. This ought to be fun. I like doing cloth when it's not really things that are made of cloth. And if I don't like it, see, my first inclination was to do it green. It's a complementary color, and I think it would look good on there. But then he would look a little bit like my old Sid character, so maybe that's probably not a good thing. Let's just go with red and go with it. All right, let's get some black over here, and let's see how dark we want to get this to be. And then we'll paint his entire cape in this color. I guess he's got quite a bit of himself covered up. Yeah, I like the Asian armies. They're cool. Almost all of them are well balanced. Although I've said this before, and I don't mean this as a knock to anything, but when I think of Asian armies, I actually don't think of armies in the Indian subcontinent. Now, it's obvious India is part of Asia. I mean, like, it's not even close. You know, you could say, well, you know, Egypt isn't necessarily Asia. Well, you know, I agree, you know, but, you know, India has so many armies during the period that it's you know it kind of crosses between one area and the next, and a lot of the Indian armies didn't. Chola is probably not a good example of this, but they didn't really venture that far outside the Indian subcontinent. Sure, there's exceptions to it, but for the most part, a lot of the Indian dynasties in southern India pretty much stayed amongst themselves and had these, you know, massive elephant wars. So when I think of, you know, Asian, I'm thinking, you know, Far East, you know, like Japan, China, that kind of stuff. But all of the exotic, Korea, obviously, all of these exotic locations, yeah, all of these Indian Asian armies are really, really interesting. And a big part of it is because a lot of people don't play them. So I tend to wanted to go in a direction of armies that aren't as frequently seen. So that's why we're going to do the Pope. I've actually never seen somebody do a papal Italian army. So if I wanted to win games with the army, I probably would do a Tamil army instead of the papal army. The Tamil army is much, much, much better. But you know, that's not really the thing that I find the most important, you know. So I feel the urge to comment on this post about matters you mentioned in the last one. Go ahead. Go right ahead. On Q&As we've done, I've always said, hey, you guys can ask anything. If we don't feel like answering, we're not going to. But I don't think it's ever gotten into that situation, you know. All right, let's paint this guy up here. Do I have any favorite matchups? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Unfortunately, one of the matchups I have is from a 2.2 list. Neither one of the two armies are 3.0 compatible. But my Koguryo Korean and my Tang Chinese was a favorite matchup. I thought it was really well balanced. I like those two. I think this army is going to have some really good matchups. I think these guys versus the early Poles are going to be a great matchup. Against the Teutonic Knights, I don't think it'll be as good. I honestly think this army will have an edge. I do not have a lot of confidence in Knights. Yeah, they look cool. I love painting them. I love collecting them, but they just, even when they win, they lose, because they can get themselves cut off. Koguryo Korean, definitely. That's a good one. We have had a lot of really good games with. I've had a lot of really good games with my Armenians. A lot of really good games, and one of them in particular is against Mitch's Pergamones. They're not historical enemies. They're around at the same time, but early Armenian and Pergamony is a great matchup, especially in 2.2 and 3.0. You got to be a little, you got to give the Pergamones an ally because they ended up getting way too much Saloy in 3.0, and it's a little balanced in favor of the Armenians now. But I've had some great battles with my Armenians, and they're not a power army, and they have no shooters, and I've done really well with them. I think they're like 48 and 24 or something. I played a lot of games with them, and they're kind of an unusual army in that you don't have a lot of people that just jump to build that army. Other matchups. I wish I could find a good matchup for the Turks because I really enjoy playing the Turks, but I don't have one yet. Maybe if I got around to building the Wallachian army with Vlad the Impaler and the Turks, I think that might be a good matchup. Hard to say. I got the troops for it. Just they're just not up next. I think book three. Any of the successors. The successor battles are just classic. Seleucids and Ptolemaics. That is just a classic matchup. Oh, I know who. Pyrrhus and Rome. I should be building a Pyrrhic army, but I got all this stuff to do him, and he's my favorite Greek guy to read about. I got to be careful how I word that because I don't think any of these guys are throughout the DBA period are really good guys, but I definitely like the he's one of the more interesting folks, definitely. I can't say that the Carthaginian Roman fight is a good matchup. I think it heavily favors the Roman. The Roman can take no risks and win 70% of the time, I would say, maybe even more often than that. You know. Oh, here we go. World War II German naval trivia. Okay, I'm ready. There's a list of all the German warships in World War II, including details about what happened to them. There's one ship, a torpedo boat, not a PT boat or Schnell boat, but something like a small frigate that has a question mark beside its ending. My uncle knows what happened to this ship. They were in the Baltic, and the Russians liked to move the lighthouses. Interesting. Well, I've got a copy of Conway's, and there are some strange. There's definitely some strange World War II ships. Probably the most. I have one of them. Well, no, it's not German. It's an Italian one. But the Germans had a. They had a Dutch destroyer. I don't know what ship it is that you're mentioning it, but it reminded me of the same thing, called, is it ZH1, the Hermes? And it was an old Dutch destroyer if I remember correctly, the Germans captured, that was being built in Rotterdam or something like that. And they took it over, ended up completing it with, I, I think, their own armament. Like they added German 5-inch guns or something like that, instead of the original Dutch armament. I could be wrong, but that one did see some service. And mine layers and stuff like that. I had quite a few. I had quite a bit of the Kriegsmarine in 2400 scale, but I got rid of them because they just weren't painted up to standard. I knew I took pictures of them to put them on eBay. They all got sold in the early 2000s, and I think I came across some of the pictures recently, and I'm like, oh God, no. I just can't do that anymore. But I had Bismarck and Tirpitz, and Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, and Spee, Graf Spee, and okay. So here's my gripe with names. I just can't for the life of me, because my ships had the names of the ship written on them, on the base and everything. So it'd be like a playing piece. So you'd have a blue water and it would have the name of them on there. I think I had them hand painted at the very beginning, but I just can't call a ship Admiral Hipper. It's the Hipper. I don't like adding Admiral to the name of the ship. So I would never call it Admiral Graf Spee. It would be the Graf Spee, and end of story. But I always liked the Hipper with a crazy camouflage scheme with the splinter type camouflage. And I did have a model of the Lutzow that they didn't have it. Most of my stuff was GHQ, but Superior used to make a model of the Lutzow with because all three of them ended up being different. Lutzow was originally Deutschland, and it had a conning tower that was very similar to the Leipzig. But Superior Models made a model of it, and of course everybody made the Graf Spee. And Scheer at one point had the same conning tower at the Graf Spee, and at some point they ended up making yet a third style of conning tower for the Scheer, which is actually pretty cool looking. But I had all three of those. I only had the Köln for the light cruisers because the other two were sunk in Norway. I had a model of the World War II Emden, which is kind of a one-ship class. I believe it was the first light cruiser that they built of any of those. I believe it was built in 1928. Anyways, it was a unique thing. And a bunch of destroyers, including those monster Z-23 class that ended up having the 5.9-inch guns. That's just, double 5.9-inch gun in the front. But they were sailing with this torpedo boat and watched it enter a minefield and sink. They could not warn them because of a strict radio silence and fear of submarines. Wow. Still have the entire fleet of World War II German naval ships, including a scratch-built Graf Zeppelin. I had it as well. I've not seen a table in 35 years. Yeah. Yeah. Kriegsmarine is an easy one to collect. There's not that many in there. If I had to do it over again, I'd do it in 1/6000. Marco's back. Maybe a better Q&A question, but do 8 bow? Oh, you can ask it now. Do 8 bow like early Achaemenid Persian or 8 spear, have any benefit? Okay, so both of them are +1 in close combat. Let me put this guy down, and I don't mind. Don't feel like you're distracting me because I like the I like the interaction. So both of those units, any deep units, including 8 bows, 8 spears, 6 blades, like the Swiss, early Swiss have. They're actually 6 blades are crazy because they're a deep element and they're also a fast element. So they move 3 base-wits like a fast. We're talking about the six blades here. They're one unit. It's a 40 by 40, I believe. I could be wrong. And it moves a speed of 3, so it's super fast. But with all of those units, if they're in good going, they get a +1 against foot in close combat, as long as they're in good going. So a regular bow would be a 4 against mounted, a 2 versus foot. A 8 an 8 bow would be still 4 against mounted, but 3 against foot if it was in good going. Now, they also, some of them can end up getting a bonus from a unit of either spear. I think it's either spear or blades. I could be wrong. It's just blades. If it's next to them and in corner to corner contact. So, like for instance, my Burgundians have a fair number of solid blades. So you put a solid blade next to one of their 8 bows. Now it becomes, it's normally, if it because of a bow, it's normally a 2 against foot. Because it is a deep bow, it's a 3 against foot, and because it is in corner corner contact with the blade, it's actually a 4 against foot. It's got to be lined up, on the front kind of thing. It's got to be lined up like so. So let's just assume this is, well, let's just use a freaking blade. Let's assume this is an 8 bow. They've got to be lined up like this. They can't be like this or like this. They've got to be like that. And then it'll bump the bow up to a 4. It sounds really powerful, except that all of those units, if you lose it, it ends up costing an extra. The first one you lose costs an extra element. So the first 8 bow you lose costs 2 elements. If it happens to be a unit like the 8 spear who ends up being the sacred band, the Theban sacred band, which happens to be a general as well, then he costs 1 for the unit, an extra 1 because he is a general, and a deep unit he costs a third 1. So that's 3 units killed of your 4. So yeah, it could be pretty deadly. But they do they can be pretty powerful. Now I think 8 bow are better. I mean, I think 8 spear are better than 8 bow. I do not like 8 bow against in a shooting war because when they shoot at each other, they don't get any pluses for them being deep. And so you can knock out a deep bow shoots just as good as a non-deep bow. But so they're shooting 2 to 2 to each other. And but if you double the deep bow, it costs us 2 die. So you end up playing keep away with them a lot. So especially they might meet against artillery. Like artillery can just nail those guys. So yeah, they're good against foot, but people end up going after them with other bow, trying to just outshoot them because they're just kind of a liability. So I love how they look. I don't like the fact that they cost an extra unit because it can cause you to lose the game. So like my Burgundian Ordnance has them, and when I play them, I end up like playing keep away with them. Like just stay over here and try not to get yourself into trouble, you know, because you're using them against mounted. They're the same as mounted, so they can be they're just as easy to destroy as a regular bow by mounted troops. So you gotta, I don't know. I think they're a liability, honestly. They look very cool, but I think they're a liability. I think in the case of the Persians, if you're going to be fighting the Greeks, they're one number higher. So, like the Immortals are going to do better than just regular bow against hoplites. But I know. or oprite, or however you say them, because I'm sure you know how to say them correctly. Some guy told me a while ago, it's like, they're not called Saloy, they're called something or another. And I said, well, that's all fine and dandy, but if I start calling them that, then no one's going to understand what the hell I'm talking about. So we can't call them by their traditional, the correct Greek terminology. If it's too different from the real world, the real word, nobody is going to know what the heck they are, other than other Greek speakers. So, but yeah, they would do. I think they would do better against the hoplites than standard solid bows. But the first one that dies counts as two. So, you know, as I like to say, I'd rather find a different way to lose the game than that way, you know. But they're cool looking elements. I love how they look, the depth, and they definitely have a give the inspiration of what's going on there. But yeah, that's the only problem with them is I wish they hadn't done it that way. I mean, I understand why they did it. There's usually you, you to get something, you have to give something away. So they get an extra +1. Well, the thing they have to give away is they cost 2 units when they die. The first one. The only element that I can think of right off the bat. Notice I said right off the bat, so I'm covered. That doesn't make any sense is if you have a choice between taking a solid bow or a solid crossbow or a solid longbow, and there's a couple of armies that could do that. I believe they're Asian, one of the Asian armies I can think of right off the bat. There's no reason to take solid bow as opposed to solid longbow, or solid bow as opposed to solid crossbow, because both the crossbow and the longbow will quick kill a knight on a tie in close combat, and the bow won't do any of that. So there's nothing that the bow does better. A standard bow does better than a longbow. There's nothing it does better, and there's nothing a solid bow does better than a solid crossbow. So if you have the opportunity of taking a crossbow or a longbow, you take it, because there's no incentive to not take either one of those two elements, unless you particularly do not want to model them that way, you know. But that's the only thing that there's really no cause and effect. It's like you can take the better unit and suffer no consequences, you know. So yeah, that's what you're doing, right? You're doing early Achaemenids. Yeah. If you're doing, I don't think you're going to be rooting for the Persians, are you? The Persian lists are actually pretty good. You could take them to an open tournament and do absolutely fine with them. They have enough variety of different units, especially the Persian list of the Alexander time period, because they can have like a knight general and a side chariot, and they got a little bit of everything. They have a low aggression. They got shooters. They got ground pounders. It's a good army. It's a really good army. People don't think much of it because it's kind of like their reputation of, well, they didn't take over Greece, so they must not be that good. But I don't see a lot of people play Persians, and it's a shame because there's good figures out there. They're interesting looking, and they had a huge empire. They just didn't, they just got stopped at Greece because they were all the way up into, they were all up in India's business. I think we did that battle one time. We did Achaemenid Persians and classical Indian, and I believe it was a good fight. I've got to go get more beverage. I will be right back. The other ship that I thought about when you mentioned it, John Peter, that I said, no, that's an Italian ship, is I did get a Panzer Schiff model of a Yugoslavian destroyer called the Dubrovnik, I believe is what it is. It's kind of a one-off thing. It was a one-ship class, and the Italians took it over and created a ship called the Premuda, and that is one of the models that I have left over. It's a nicely Panzer ship models suck. They're really really poorly done and lack a lot of details, but it painted up nicely. And see, Premuda is the one I was thinking of. The other, when you said one, when you were talking about the German ship, I was thinking they have like a air warning ship called the Niobe, I believe, and that's kind of a one-off thing. But yeah, I always wanted to get the two Finnish monitors, the Ilmarinen and the Väinämöinen, and nobody made them. I think at one point was gonna scratch build them, but they do now. Now they make them. Shapeways makes all kinds of stuff. So Shapeways makes those things. They're really cool looking little stumpy ships, and I never got the Norwegian coastal defense stuff. That could you could have some lot of fun with some of these unique second tier type vessels. You know. I'm a little confused by the crossbow longbow point. Okay, so you got bow. You got elements that break down into a bow category, okay? And within that subcategory of bow, there is longbowmen and crossbowmen. All of them behave the same. They're all bows are the same kind. They're either solid or they're fast, okay? Solid ones obviously are solid and they move slower. Fast ones are fast, and but they all fire in each bound, same kind of thing. They all fire the same distance. Their numbers are the same. They're four against mounted, two against foot. But the same way that cataphracts are a subset of knights. So cataphracts do every single thing that knights do. They move the same speed and everything else, except cataphracts don't advance after combat. So they win a combat, then they don't advance. And there's some weirdisms in there and how they encounter the standard knight, where on ties the cataphract recoils from them. But other than that, the cataphracts are a subset of the knight category, and they're basically knights for all intents and practical purposes, except for the fact that they don't recoil. They don't advance after combat for the most part. I may be missing a couple situations, but that is a subset of a knight. They're still a knight. They're just a knight with special rules. Same thing with longbowmen and crossbowmen. They're both bows, except their special rule is if a knight, not a cavalry, not a light horse, not foot, if a knight goes into close combat with a crossbow unit or a longbow unit, on a tie result, the knight gets quick killed. And I think what it's supposed to represent is the bolts or the arrows in the case of the longbow are so much more overpowered that at that close range, the knights take such a high casualties that they break. And that's what eliminating a unit represents in DBA. It's the unit is out of service, and that means they either took so many casualties, they didn't die the last man. It took enough casualties that the guys just rout off the field, and they're not available for use as an element because you're making the decisions of like a king of a country would go and make. You're talking that kind of a scale. So as a commander, all you know is the unit winning the combat? Did it recoil, or is it not useful anymore because it's in different states of disarray or routing off the field or something like that? So the crossbow and longbow, it's almost kind of like it's a subset, but it's almost like a little asterisk on there that it's like, okay, well, these are the same as a bow, except that they have this extra added rule that gives them a bonus against knights in close combat. A regular bow doesn't have that, and it doesn't have anything in lieu of that. So there's no reason to build, if you're trying to build, make a better army, there's no incentive to ever take bow. If you have a choice between bow or crossbow or longbow, you take a crossbow or longbow if you're given a choice, because there's no pros to taking just a regular bow. Now, some armies don't have that choice. Very few actually do have that choice. But one of the armies, I want to say it's like Tang Chinese. My Tang Chinese can have that option. So you never take the regular bow, you take a crossbow unit or you take a longbow unit. Let's see. Put it together late, early and late Achaemenids. They're cool. They are. I have a really nice Zoroastrian symbol that I mounted on the general's chariot. It looks cool. The Faravahar symbol. My uncle was in his 20s during the war, and at the end of it, he had white hair, lots of stress. Yeah. Here's a stupid question. It's stupid because I haven't really thought about it. So, if you have a US veteran or a British veteran of the Second World War, they won the war, right? So, though when the war is over, they get a pension eventually or whatever. They get benefits. What happened to the people in the Wehrmacht? They didn't get anything, did they? That's really rough, man, to go through all that and, you know, I'm not trying to be sympathetic to the Wehrmacht or the Kriegsmarine, but I'm just saying, a lot of people went into the service of a lot of these nations that they really didn't have a choice. It's not like everybody in the Soviet army was a damn communist, but it's just those kind of things. I don't think the losing side gets anything, do they? Generally, yeah, it's pretty rough. That's really appreciated clarification. Yeah, you bet. It's the rules are great. They're just so damn difficult to digest. All right. I used to have a bunch of the merchant raiders too. I used to have Penguin and Orion and Atlantis, and Panzership used to make those. They were all painted like crap. I don't regret not having them. They look terrible. And I wasn't painting them then. That was just before my painting style changed significantly when I started painting about 1995. I actually started painting some elements for Armati. We were going to play Armati. We never got around to painting it, and I painted 4 or 5 elements or whatever. And because I was painting figures, my painting style kind of changed, similar to what we're doing here these days. And that's when I kind of became a lot more proud of my work than what I was doing before. But again, we didn't have the internet, so you couldn't like share ideas with other people or learn from each other, or it was just different times. Now we're living in this golden age of sharing and passing on information. You know, I can only see it speeding up even more. So yeah, the Persians are cool. Mitch has Cyrus's army that has that damn war wagon in it. That's a cool army. And one of my book one armies that I had but sold was the guys those guys fought, the Lydians. But I was just never going to get around to I was never getting around to painting them. I did a horse trade with them, so I don't regret it. I'm just never going to get around to painting a book one army with all the stuff that I have that I'm more interested in. I believe they do get a pension from the German government if they weren't locked up for war crimes. Okay, well that makes sense. I know it was transferable for widows, but I don't have the details. Okay. What they did have was lots of single women after the war, so there was that. John Peter, you were raised in Germany as opposed to Canada. If you were, or you would, I think you would know the answer to this question. Not to get political, but when I was raised, okay, and I'm a World War II nut. I'm officially, I would consider myself one, especially the stuff that happened in Europe. I was always raised and learned. That's why I like the Eastern Front, because the Eastern Front to me, it's like, which bad guy do you want to be? Even though the Soviets were, see that? I didn't say Russians. Even though the Soviets were allies of the Western allies, I don't view them any better than the Germans. And depending on where you are, depending on who you are, you may have been better off with one or the other. I mean, there's no doubt they both were horrible regimes. But I know that in Germany, was was that also the case there, or in Germany it was just kind of assumed that yeah, the Soviets were bad, but they were better than the Nazi regime. I'm curious to see if that, how that was. And not everybody in the United States necessarily agrees with me. I just, from my background, we have an extreme. You're never gonna hear me say anything positive about anything communist. I don't like any dictators to begin with, but I am, you know, I'll play anybody. I'll play an army of whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But I'm curious to see if that was because I know obviously all the stuff that you wanted to disassociate yourself with all the stuff that happened in the past for good reason. But I wonder if it went to the extreme of like, yeah, even the Soviets were better than the guys they took out. Obviously, in East Germany, it would be viewed completely different. But I'm just, from a Western standpoint, if that was the case, I'm interested to see if that is also true. Let's see. Do we have anything yet? Anyone I've met through went through the war a bit nuts. Yep, no doubt. It's interesting, but it's war is horrible. Not we played with these little figures, but we're not glorifying any of that stuff. That's just bad stuff. But by the same token, you can't forget everything that happened, or all those people died in vain. You gotta remember, and All right, let's go in here and we're not going to highlight this with white because it's going to start turning pink. Not that I have a problem with this having a little bit of a pink hue, but I think we want this to be a more brighter color, so we're going to bring in Mr. Yellow to add that in there. Yeah, this is not a friendly this is not a friendly communist zone. I've seen I've seen some I've seen some comments on there that on the internet a couple of weeks ago that I just needed to just shut the page down. I don't get into wars with people, but there's some people now that just amaze me that they're able to breathe. Which army has been your most successful? That is an awesome army. Well, it used to be the Irish. I love my Irish until they met those frickin' Numidians. I hate those sons of bitches. I'm glad those people aren't around anymore. Sorry, Marco, your comment is not going to be banned. I totally approve that sentiment. Yeah, I don't approve of people controlling other people. That's just against my nature. And yeah, I hate those guys too. Wow. But you can't like the other side either when you're going to the Eastern Front. So it's like, which bad guy you want to be. I have a book. Okay, I have several books. I have one book that's particularly interested and particularly interesting. I'm not going to show you the cover of it. I don't want to cause any controversy because it does have a crooked spider on it. It's a novel. See if I can tell you what the name of the author is. The name of the author is Joseph Haywood. It's called The Berkut. Berkut. And the premise of this novel is I recommend this novel. It's historical fiction, and it's basically the premise is that Hitler gets a body double and tries to escape in the last days of World War II, and there is a Soviet, we'll call him an NKVD guy. Okay, I'm not sure if that's exactly what he is, who they call the Berkut, which apparently is some kind of hawk, some kind of bird of prey that goes on the hunt to follow him. So it's kind of a imagine like the fugitive, but with Adolf Hitler and and a band of a few guys that are super elite, fixers like Skorzeny or guys like that. And it's a really interesting. I mean, it would make a good movie if they could be, if they could make it correctly. Obviously, it's fallacy, but that's an interesting book. I won't show you the cover of it because it might be banned in the country where you're from, but it does not promote any ideologies in that book at all. It's just they hunt the person down and it talks about how he escapes the Fuhrer bunker and supposedly, and it's an interesting book. I read it several years ago, and yeah. Okay, I think the average person would want to support his country and his government, so either you did not think about the bad stuff or you pretended it was otherwise. I don't think there was a special hate for the Russians or communists at the beginning of the war, but by the end, they were terrified by the Russians. No, 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 no. What I meant is, like when you were growing up, if you grew up in West Germany, I mean, obviously, in the 1950s, 1960s, or whatever, it was obviously viewed the Nazi regime was bad around the world. Okay, no brainer, right? But were the Russians viewed better than Nazi Germany in say the 50s and 60s in Germany? Because at least my experience in United States, that is not necessarily the case. One wasn't really viewed better than the other. It was just like they were both bad. Well, we were involved in this freaking Cold War thing going on, so you can't really view those guys any better than the other ones, But no, I meant in Germany. In Germany after the war, in other words, uh, was it like, thank you, Russia, for liberating us from these bad people, and but you guys are better, or it was just like, thank goodness I escaped to the West, which, no brainer there. Um, Soviets seem to get a pass for their atrocities. Depends who you ask. I don't know why the Western Allies made a deal with them. To be honest with you, I mean, they attacked Finland. The Western Allies supported Finland. They made whether it was a legitimate or it was a deal to kind of a match made in hell, so to speak, between in 1939 when they carved up Poland. I don't know why the hell they dealt. I don't know why they dealt with them. To be honest with you, maybe they're just like, well, we gotta fund these guys because otherwise, you know, we need to keep a second front going. Communists and Nazis, two aspects of the same. Yeah. Yep, they like to control people. Hmm. Special hate for Russians or communists. Yeah. Add a little bit of yellow here, and you guys got my conversation juices flowing. How people think is extremely, in my opinion, extremely affected by how you were raised and what country you were raised in, and socioeconomic, yeah, as well. All right, we're gonna put this. I believe is the color that we used for the strappings. Oh, not flat red, the other red. They're slightly different. This is this one's just called red, or vermellón. I speak Spanish, but I don't know that word. Hey, I have a limited vocabulary. I've never went to school in it, so you know. I'm going to brighten this red up that's on the strappings. And this guy is not a Soviet. This guy is a Russian. So, but the one thing they have in common is the people at the bottom were still serfs either way. Most successful armies. Okay. Uh-oh. The Germans were told. Okay. All capitalized doesn't sound good. We're told what to think and probably didn't think about it. Fascism was over and you had to rebuild. In the West, we developed capitalism and socialism. In the West, they had to be two. There's a world difference between socialism and communism. There is. Every society has some socialist aspects to it. Okay, let's look at my win-loss thing. I don't want to get it wrong. Yes, I keep track of all of them. Not to brag, just so you freaking know. My my worst army. Let's go in reverse order. What's my worst army? Ottoman Turks are 16 and 32. Those poor guys. Well, I want to do well with them. I mean, I'm glad the Ottoman Turks didn't take over the whole world, but I want to win with them when I'm in charge. Um, my Karij are 1 and 4. That doesn't bode well. I'm not doing well with the Middle Eastern armies, which is a shame because I really like to play them. They're some of my favorite looking armies. I love my Turks and my Karij. They look awesome. My later Hungarians are 3 and 9. That's a shame. Yeah, it is what it is. Um, they had a decent chance to win all the games. Even my original worst army, my feudal Spanish, which was the first army I learned how to play the game with, I'm 20 and 29 with them. So there's some hope that they'll eventually go 50-50. Um, my fanatic Berbers are 21 and 22, so they're almost 50-50. My post-Mongol samurai are 9 and 11. They don't have a lot of troop types. They did win a tournament though. That means they did really poor in a lot of the other games. What else is on the negatives? My French Ordnance B, that's the late French Ordnance, so you're talking about like Italian wars. They're 5 and 7. All they got is knights, a horde, pike, and no shooters. So yeah, you do the math. My Northern Sun, for some reason, are 4 and 8, and that's all the armies that I have that have a negative score. Um, Now the biggest winners, my medieval Irish without allies are 6 and 2, and with Scots allies they've dropped to 8 and 5. So that's 14 and 7. That's not terrible, but they've encountered some issues in the last 5 games or so. They pretty much were on a roll. They really were on a roll, and I love playing them because they are kind of a they're not super fancy looking, and I think that adds a little bit of endearment. They look kind of like commoners, and a lot of guys don't even have shoes, and I think that's part of my appeal to them. Um, my Burgundians, the early Burgundians are 6 and 0, and Burgundian Ordnance are 6 and 3. So that's 12 and 3. That's pretty damn respectable. The fact that the Burgundian Ordnance can be 6 and 3 with an aggression 4 army, I think that's they've gotten really lucky. And I'm telling you, I have had to earn every single one of those wins. They are tough. I have been sweating definitely on a lot of their games. Um, Let's see. What else do we have here that's type winning-ish? My Nan Chow are doing a lot better. They're 19 and 11 now. That's not too bad. Um, oh, my medieval Germans. 413C. My medieval Germans are 41 and 21. They've lost 21 games, but yeah, they've almost won twice as many. So that's pretty consistent numbers there. Um, Medieval Norwegians, 34-25. My Armenians, 48 and 27. Now, I haven't played them in an open tournament, so it's not like, man, those guys win all the time. Well, they're not playing top tier opponents. Most of these games are against, I would say, even matches, or ones that they have a reasonable chance of winning. Um, but Armenians 48-27. I played those guys a lot. My poor Rajputs were a good army. I did really well with them, and then all of a sudden they've dropped to 38-35. They were at some point almost 2-1 wins versus losses, and they frequently have just come across some bad luck. That's pretty much it. The other stuff's kind of in the middle. I'm in the middle. My Italian Ostrogoths are 20-11. I guess that's not too bad. Um, yeah, winning this army, I don't know. Probably the Burgundians. Only three losses, 12-3. My Irish were top dog, and then they came across guys that I probably showed up to play and I didn't have any whiskey with me. It's my own damn doing. Oh well. Um, I like playing the Irish more than I like playing the Burgundians. The Burgundians have a lot of shooters, and I do really well with shooters, but you got to protect them too. So it's kind of like this, go in and hit them, but don't get too close. You end up playing keep away the whole time with that army. No matter which version you do, is you can't just you got to be like, okay, go in, but don't go too far, and it's definitely an advanced army, I would think, to do all that stuff. If not a miracle on Wisla, you will speak Russian and pray to learn faster than you think. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that. Oh, and welcome, Martian. I It pleases me greatly that your Ottomans suck. Oh, come on, man. They're cool looking. Um, just because you guys, your people like to be raped by the Ottomans a lot. You guys were just in the way. Not they don't have anything against you. You guys are just right there. Oh, I know, I know. Just remember, it was my people that stopped the Ottomans. Damn it, cost us all our freaking money, but I don't. I play all nations, and I want them to do well when I play them, respective of their historical ideologies. Um, a lot of people. I have a lot of contact to people from the former East Germany, and they're all anti-communist. Well, that's one. That's great. That's good. If it wasn't for Polish wing hussars, we might be speaking Turkish. Hey, we worked them on the south end. Thank you very much. Um, Greeks can still take partial credit for Ottoman success. Ooh, that's probably not a good thing. Technically, the Janissaries were abducted Greek and Serbian boys, so yeah, yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I want my armies to do well in the game. It's just a game, respective of real life. I've said it before. All these nations, all these time periods, all these rulers, they were all unsavory folks by our standards of today. You know, so. Speaking of Soviets, I haven't. finish my Soviet tanks. They've been sitting there lingering over there unfinished. Oh well, I'll get to them when I get to them. You know, I was doing that stuff 20 years ago. What, want to put them away for another 20 years? They'll still be there. Who cares? You know. That's why, it just makes sense to do the DBA stuff because I'm gonna get use out of it. You know. Good night, Tony. 11:30 here, UK. Early start will bow out. Thanks for a great chat. Keep up great work. Well, thanks, Andy, for coming by. Um, you actually have Seljuk and Roman army and Ottoman armies waiting for me. I've got a bunch of Seljuks to do. I got them really cheap, and I got them, and then Luke ended up buying the army, so I kind of lost interest in doing them. But they're cool. They've got some interesting options. They've got that one special unit that has one unit of cataphract, the Agulani, and I've got figures I could use for them. So maybe one day. Yeah, when you get ready to do just before you get ready to do those Seljuk Turks, go read that Crusades book by Dan Jones. It's got a lot of the inter rivalries there of those um, of those Syrian city states and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. It's really pretty interesting. All right, we may end up bringing that up a little bit more, but let's move on to something else. We're going to need to do the rim on a shield and boots. The horse is so damn dark. This guy's gonna have some super light colored boots. Back to the Persians. I have a beautiful 25 millimeter WRG-7 Persian Army, but I need one for DMA and 15 millimeter. I mean DBA. Really looking forward to Museum Miniatures Z range. I know you don't like them that they only have one face. I'm okay. I'm okay with them. Like if I was painting a bunch of like immortals, I would be perfectly happy with all the immortals to be in the same pose because they're organized type stuff. Just like if you're doing like Roman legions, I have no problem with them all being in the same pose. That would be my preference, actually. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot of people that make Achaemenid Persians, from Zyston all the way into old minifigs. Everybody makes Persians, so you got a lot to choose from. I'll never build that army. Mitch has several of them, so nothing against them. Like I mentioned, I think that they're a really competitive army, and everybody knows who they are. So just don't paint them how they were in 300. That movie actually didn't bother me. I knew what I was getting into before I watched it, and the way I rationalized that movie is, oh, remember, there's one guy that survived, right? He was the one that told the rest of Greece what happened, and it was the story that he told, what people imagined it to look like. And once you kind of take that tack, then I'm like, okay, I could rationalize, it being presented the way it is, you know. So one of these days, I got to go back and finish my Athenians because I don't have the win loss record of armies. Oh, let me take that back. My Athenians would be my biggest winning army. I don't have them finished yet, but I've used other people's Athenians. I think I've only lost 2 games with them. I mean, they're like 14-2 or just something insane. I don't know why. They are just, you know, I love that army. the littoral capability, and just so much. They have a few different troop types, and we're talking about Athenians, the Book 2 Athenians, Book 2, 5B, I believe. Yeah, I like that army. I like that army a lot. And it's got a lot of spear, but I don't play them defensively. The fact that they can littoral land behind somebody, and they can just cause all kinds of trouble. So I do like that army. So what happens is, if I play, let's say I borrow or at least my win-loss records, and sometimes this works for you, and sometimes this works against you. If I have an army that I played 3 years ago, and in the case of the Hungarians, I've played my later Hungarians with other people's armies, like in a match pair or something like that, and I finished the later Hungarians. Whatever the record was before, I add it to my record with the army. So my Hungarians are actually, well, I said they're 3-9. I think with me they were only 3-5, but I had gone 0-4 with the army before. Well, I had to add my other wins with that army, even though it wasn't with the army that I painted. So, sometimes that works against you. So, as soon as if I build the Athenians, I get to claim all of their wins, even though I may have only played one army with one game with my own army. Because you got to be fair. You can't just, you can't use the stats when they benefit you and not when they don't. So, this is Sparta. When I was in junior high, I always thought Sparta was better, but I like the Athenians. Um, I like the Athenian army. They got more variety. So they were samurai in 300. Just finished watching Barbarian. Find it cool that they only spoke Latin and German. I watched 3 episodes or 4 and I just lost interest. Didn't have to read a lot of subtitles. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I gotta pick it up, but I gotta pick it up again. So I wonder if most people in Germany are anti-Roman. I don't know. Before I did DBA, I really wasn't necessarily pro-Roman. I just think that the Romans, to me, are more interesting than a lot of the people that they fought. So, whatever that means. Not always, but most of the time. I'm not a fan of tribal type stuff. Hard for me to get excited about it. Again, doesn't mean I don't like to play them, but just hard to get excited about that kind of thing. This army, okay? I was building this army for a Russian themed tournament that we had, I think the last convention I went to, which was September 2019. I didn't have these knights finished yet. So I morphed the Ostrogoth knights into this army because all the foot's done. And I played them and I won the tournament and I think used them in the open also or something like that. And so they are sitting at 5-2. So this army is already 5-2. So this technically could be a winning army. I just don't want them to have a losing record, So if I have an army and they're 100 to 99, I'm good as long as it's positive. I just don't want them to have a losing record. So yeah, hey, small goals, right? Um, Barbarians, okay. Romani ite donum. It sounds like Romans eat crap. People called Romans, they go the house. I don't know what that means. That don't make no sense. That sounds like Greek to me. Romani ite domum. A matchup that I would do if I had MP Romans, the Roman Imperial, I would definitely do them in the Dacians. That'd be a cool matchup. Oh, it's from Monty Python. Okay, I've only seen that movie one time. Yeah, I've only seen that movie one time. The that particular Monty Python movie. Not the medieval one. We've seen that one many times. Obviously. This thing already dried up from this morning. Jeez. Prince Fancy Boots. All right, so we got part of this guy's shirt hanging out underneath. It's not gonna be red. He got his face mask and stuff to do. I gotta go use a little boards room. Crucifixion. Okay, I will be right back. No full pardon. Marvelous. I guess I should watch that movie again, huh? I like that stoning scene. That's some funny crap. Nobody throws the first stone until I give the word, even if they do say Jehovah. Blasphemer! Yeah, good stuff. Oh, man. Scabbard. This guy's fancy. You should have a fancy colored scabbard. And it's right next to red, so let's not do that. Let's do, I could probably use like a green color. Like a dark green. This one right here. This one. Yeah. It's this black green. There's no black green. That's a misnamed color. Silly people with your misnamed colors. So yeah, I know some of you, maybe not some of you, but some people that do have an aversion to drilling out spears and lances and the like. You're going to see some of that stuff live in the next army that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be using a lot of old figures, tabletop games, style figures that have really soft alloy type lances that I'm going to go ahead and replace. Otherwise, I'm going to run into an issue after playing the first 12 games or so with the next army, and I'm just going to go ahead and replace them now. So if you guys want to see drilling and stuff like that, that's it's really freaking easy to do, and you know, it's a piece of cake. Like I said, not necessarily you guys, but there's some people out there that it's funny. Some people have issues doing things that I think are particularly easy. One of them is, oh, you're going to use needles? Oh, I'm going to poke my finger. I said, dude, just all you got to do is just run it over the freaking file. You just take a file like this and you just run the end of it on over it. Like, okay, you're done. Okay, you're not going to poke your finger with it. But some people are like, oh, I can't use those things. Tony uses a Dremel. I can't. It's way too powerful. It's way too powerful. It's just a little pin vise. I've got, well, I've got one right here. And, an X-Acto knife actually doubles as a poor man's pin vise because the edge of it is actually cruciform. And, you can fit something small in there. So I used this for a pin vise for many, many years. But now I've got a legit one that, I've had this one a long time as well. But yeah, can't use power. It's way, way, way too powerful. Demo video on replacing lances. Yeah, it's a piece of cake. I did it on when I was playing my Carige. All my Carige have lances replaced with pins. I sometimes call them needles, but they're not really needles. They're like they're just thin. Like this guy. This isn't a needle. This is a pen. So yeah, I prefer to do that. You never have to worry about it again. I replaced the lances with those on my cataphracts from my Armenians, and I've played almost 100 games with them, and they've never broken or bent or nobody ever got poked or I mean, if you have it on the ground and you trip on a banana peel or whatever it is that you have laying around in your house, and you fall on it, yeah, it's a little different. You're pretty much hosed, okay? But inadvertently, poking yourself, yeah, it's not going to happen. Good idea with X-Acto knives. You didn't know that? Well, that's what we're here for. Learn from each other. We don't all have the right answers. Yeah, absolutely. The other day, crazy thing, X-Acto knife. Okay, I mentioned this in the earlier video. I'm building a plastic model, and the guy's like, and I watched some video, and it's like, yeah, if you want to take like the seam on a plastic model off, let's see if I was careless and forgot about taking a seam off. Like this thing right here. Okay, this was clipped on a sprue. The hull of this communist T-34 tank. If you end up using this edge, you end up gouging this. He said, yeah, just use the back edge, and you could scrape it down on plastic, or if you have a mold line. And I'm like, son of a bitch, I didn't know you could do that. It never occurred to me. So, same thing. You got a little mold thing, just use the top of it. I didn't, never would have occurred to me. Awesome. So we don't all have the answers. So, yeah, cool stuff. This is a sharing and caring channel. And again, I don't know whose idea was to put a contact lens case for my for the for the liquid here, but why don't you one of you guys take credit for it? Because somebody did. They came up with the idea, and that's how I decided to do it. I don't necessarily take every idea. I mean, some people don't come up with very many good ideas, so sometimes that's me. But hey, I'm not going to keep all this information, all this stuff to the grave with me. There's no reason to do that. Well, the figures, yes, because I've been told they're going to be buried with me. Uh, I told my daughter, I said, can never sell them. You keep them, never sell them. If you sell them, you're not going to get what they're worth. So there's no point in doing that. Okay, Daddy. Okay, super bright, but something there to add a little bit of color. Let's do the rim of the shield. And actually, we need to go in there and touch up some of that in black. So this is what we got to be really careful with what we're about to do. Because we're going to get really close to that decal, and we don't want capillary action to come and be our enemy. And if I do this with too wet a brush, it's going to be bad news. See, that's too wet. And that is one of the problems of these decals is sometimes they leave a little film around the edge and they are not super precise, especially in 15 millimeter. I'm sure the 28s are a little bit more forgiving. Because you're dealing with bigger dimensions. I think we're going to leave it at that. We're not going to push our luck anymore. Okay. All right. We still got a saddle to do, a belt. Let's see if this metallic color down here. There we go. It's dried out a little bit. That's good. But the airbrush thinner works really well because it doesn't seem like it washes away the pigment. Obviously, if you had a big tub of this stuff, you could certainly rinse your brushes with them instead of water. But it seems to work really well for just thinning the paints without losing the pigments. And if you thin with water, you're kind of washing the pigments away. So it works to a certain point, and at some point you got too much, and it just washes. You end up having nothing, no pigments left. So the problem we were talking about the Byzantines the other day. Manuel and the B list of the Comnenian Byzantine army that has knights, units, heavy cavalry that are treated as knights in this game. There, that's the correct way to say it, because they're not really knights. Phil Barker decided that that's how they're going to behave after it's like 1147 or something like that, when they switched to that all the way to the end of the Comnenian list, which is just before the sack of Constantinople, if memory serves me right. So what would that be, 1147 to like 1203 or something like that? Anyhow, they're considered knights, but when I got the army from the person buying it, there's one particular person that I know of. I don't know them personally, but I did communicate with them quite a bit. And they were told that they were a Byzantine army expert. They've sadly passed away in the last year, this particular person. I never met him. They were a war gamer. And one of the things he was telling me is that a lot of the figures that I had round shields. And by the Comnenian army time, the round shields were basically not used. So I have my Varangian Guard, which I believe those four figures have round shields in them. I think I'm going to, oh, hold on a second. I am being summoned for a moment, and we will be right back. Okay. The summoning has unsummoned. All right. So, this person was supposedly a Byzantine expert, in that's what they studied a lot, and basically said that none of the Byzantine shields during the Comnenian period should be round. Well, my Varangian Guards have round shields, and since they kind of have a Vikingish background, then I'm going to keep them on there. But I'm going to have to pick up some more cavalry. I don't have enough cavalry to do it. So I think what I'm going to use Old Glory figures for them and mix and match with the actual Elaine Toulaire figures. But the Elaine Toulaire figures are actually, quality-wise, probably pretty equivalent to Merlaton. They're done in a similar style, and they've got personality. There's some variations between the. It's not like it's all one pose and so forth. I believe the Varangian figures, every one of them is different. So you got four guys that are totally different. So what I haven't decided is, am I going to paint their shields all on the same, or they're all going to have a different Viking-esque uh, Viking-esque throwback motif kind of look, like with like a raven and stuff. And I think I may just do every one of them to have a different shield. That's going to be fun painting those guys up. But at some point, I will get around to doing that Komnenen army. But I know several people. I know two people that visit. Well, one person that used to visit frequently, and one that does that already has that army. So again, it's not a priority because I already I can end up seeing that army. Obviously, wouldn't necessarily be an incentive for you not to build it, but you kind of have to take everything kind of in its own weight. Now, with that said, I showed you in the video either yesterday or earlier this morning. I forget which one it is. And Joe gave me a book that had that actually showed the flag for the Komnenen army, which is kind of lame, to be honest with you. With as many cool Greek Orthodox type motif things you can have, to have a flag that just has white, red, and blue is kind of freaking boring. But with that said, the company called Tin Soldier. Tin Soldier has a standard bearer that has a flag molded in, because it's a multi-tail flag. It's almost like a square flag with like multiple tails, like 7 tails on it or whatever. And it's already molded with those tails by in that Tin Soldier figure. The Byzantine list under Tin Soldier is kind of like an amalgam of either thematic and Constantinian type Byzantines, like just before the Komnenen army period. But the standard bearer happens to have that type of a flag, and that flag is simple enough that it would be easy to paint on your own. You don't need to use a decal or even photocopy or anything. So that may be a direction I'll go in, is I get the actual standard bearer from that guy, because it's cool that he has now I don't know how the figure is going to be size wise compared to some of the other ones, because I know that Tin Soldier figures are all over the place. I've got several of them in my Ptolemaic army, and a lot of them definitely have a unique look. They almost look like the comic book character Ziggy. They're very strange, dwarfish like. They're endearing looking, but still they're odd. But I just came across that recently, that I saw that they had that flag that that is specific to, is a shoe-in for that Komnenen Byzantine flag. So that may be something to look for in the future when we get around to doing that. But let me do this guy's helmet here. We're going to have bronze along the bottom, but the top of it's going to be, the old standard steel type color. We'll run some Nuln Oil on here, also give it a little bit of shading. Okay, he's got a little point on the top of his helmet. We're going to paint that a little bit different and so forth. This guy's one of these Russians, as I like to say. Yuri is so ugly, we've got to put face mask on him, not to scare children. Yeah, well, these type of figures with these face shields make them look really cool. The Sassanids have that stuff. Trying to think who it is specifically in the Russians that is. I know who it is. I just can't think of what their list is. They're like the last book in book 3, and these are is it Chipchaks? Those guys are known for. Actually, nobody makes figures for them. That army in particular. Let's see which one it is. I think it's Chipchaks. Yeah, the Kumans. That's who it is. The Kumans have. That's what they're known for, is having those type of face kind of shields with the decoration on there. Sometimes have built-in mustaches and kind of cool, Yeah, nobody makes Kumon figures. They do make some of them as auxiliaries and stuff. Like I believe some of these guys you'd be able to use, but the actual like the nobility, like the guys that would be the knights and stuff, nobody makes them. You could just use some of these Russian guys as well, but you've worn me out. Now I need some sleep. See you tomorrow. Okay, yeah, we'll probably be live. More than likely, we'll be live. And War of the Roses. Don't pick the wrong side, right? I'm going to be playing the White Rose guys, the good guys. There's no good guys. Just Marty's like, you need to pick one of the sides. I said, I want to be Edward the Fourth. You sound a really fascinating guy. I don't want to be some side that's led by some king that likes to, pray and read poetry. I want somebody to squash us some heads. So I actually didn't know anything about Edward the Fourth until I read that book. I thought it was like great. I'm digging this learning about new shit, and then I like that. So all right, this guy here pits off all the Lancastrian and Tudor people. Like I said, they're all buttholes. All these factions just. And the funny thing is I already knew the names of all the battles. Like if you name off the names of these battles, Tewkesbury and and Barnet and all that stuff, I knew that they were a War of the Roses battle, and I just didn't know who was at which one, who won, and what order they went in. So I had to put some of the pieces together, but it wasn't that bad. So we're going to use, as I mentioned, when I started doing this guy, we're going to use bronze for little rivets and stuff on this guy's armor here. Okay, I think that's all of the brassy things on there. So let's go ahead and do his saddle. We're just going to go with a traditional leather type color for that. Every step getting closer to finishing these guys. Every step. Which means this army isn't going to be done until next weekend. Right? What's next weekend? Memorial Day. I don't think we're traveling anywhere. One of the days we're going to end up having to go to the beach, definitely. But other than that, we should be able to get these guys gooped up between the week and so forth. We should be able to get these guys gooped up between the week and so forth. So can't forget that we need to go back and paint the little banner here underneath the horn blower. So right. So saddle up. Let's get the saddle here. And we'll run this session until this guy's done, and then we'll stop. And then we get dinner can wait. Oh, I do need to take my meds so I don't get off the. Wait, I took it late today. Okay. Got my meds for my skin. No big deal. Nothing life threatening. Nothing addictive. Just everybody's got something. That's what I ended up getting. So. Oh, I missed a spot. Okay. Everybody's got something. Some people have more than one thing. Right, saddle. All right, let's bring this up a little bit. How long have we been on here? Man, 2 hours and 17 minutes? That's awesome. I just knew I was going to have time to do a little bit more. This guy's taking a long time to do, but that's okay. We've been distracted in other things. That's fun too. It makes the time go by. You know? It's all good, man. All good. All right. We need to do this guy's face. This guy has a hell of a mask on him. I think I'm going to start with bronze. And even if I do end up doing gold, I can build up to that. So we're going to come in here. And of course, we need to do that little rim around it as well. Yeah. Didn't turn out that well on the video camera here on the phone, but we're getting there. Now, I think this guy he's definitely got beard showing. We're going to make this guy blonde. All right, let's get some brown. Do we have any brown out here? No. And yellow, let's get that really pale, 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 pale yellow here. Another misnamed color. I believe this one's called golden yellow. There's nothing golden about this. It's kind of pastel-ish. So let's drop a little bit of this on here. This might be. Don't need very much of this at all. No, maybe not that little either. Just a little smear like that. I thought I put a new white down here. What's wrong with this? Okay. Actually, I don't think I'm going to use Nuln Oil because I'm only going to brighten his. I'm going to make the top of that helmet even brighter using mithril silver, along with what the same thing is going to happen with the sword. So we're going to do that. Where is this gold color? That is. We have old gold, and we also have just gold. Let's start with this one and lighten up his shield and stuff like that. I mean his face mask. Oh yeah, it's significantly brighter. All right, let's get the good old mithril silver from Days Gone By. The original one. Yeah, this stuff right here. Kicking it like it's 1989. Or maybe even 88. Okay, and then you definitely need to have this sword bright. Because if there's anything shiny, it's going to be a freaking sword that's been kept in good condition. What do we got? We got a clasp that ties in his cape on there. And we're just going to use the little bit of the pants that are showing between his armor and the rest of them. We're going to go ahead and do that in white. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do socks on all four of these so that we brighten up this horse. We don't want him just looking like a big old drab dark thing, and give him a little bit of detail. Need more white. Very little of it showing up there, if at all. Okay. Whew. We don't have a lot left on this guy. We really don't. Let's go ahead and do the stirrups. Well, that's nice. That, in my opinion, the nicest looking shield turned out on this guy. That's just total randomness. It could have been the opposite. Okay. Got some of the back of the shield showing. Better take care of that. right. Well, that was painless. And what else we got to do? We got some of this shirt showing underneath here. We can do that one in white as well. Take the opportunity of lightening up some of the colors on this particular figure. Don't want to turn in just a big dark black color with everything damn near the same. Now, even with this guy complete, there's still tens of hours left because we've got to base all these guys together and put the goop on them and so forth. So, but it is what it is, you know. That's standard fare with all these armies, anyways. So. Yeah, I know I'm tired. I know I'm tired. Yeah. There we go. Okay. We have a belt to do here. It should have still some of this leather color. Let's lighten that up. All right. Where's the metal corner over here? All right, so what we got left on this guy to do? We got some socks and the mane and stuff on the horse. Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop for the day. I was almost 2.5 hours on this one, but I'm probably going to finish this guy up off camera at some point, maybe even tomorrow morning. But I need to get some dinner at me. But anyhow, stop. Thanks for coming by and the different discussions that we had, and yeah, we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Definitely tomorrow evening we should have a live video of some War of the Roses action, and yeah, this is the final end of the of these medieval, or I like to call them medieval Russians, but technically they're early Russians from the standpoint of the DBA list. But anyhow, next time we'll catch you guys later. Enjoy what's left of your Sunday, and see you soon. Bye bye.